Okay guys, we are finally back with another video. I want to show you guys a few tips that you can take to start freelancing in 2021. The first thing to realize is that there's no set path for this. You could be working a full-time job with a side hustle for 6 months. It could be 6 years. There is absolutely, unequivocally, no set path for you. There's no barometer to say, okay, it's been 3 years and I haven't made it full-time yet, or it's been 1 year and I haven't made it full-time yet. There is absolutely no barometer that will tell you that it needs to go a certain way. It varies for everyone depending on your location, depending on your equipment, depending on your work-life balance. There are so many factors, so don't get discouraged if you see other people working for big brands or other people going full-time and you're not at that point yet. The key here is to remember that it will always be a leap of faith to quit guaranteed income, whether that be a full-time job or a part-time job, and transition full-time into freelance filmmaking. It's always going to seem like a risk. It always is a risk. So it's important to not get caught up on expectations that you may have had going in as to when you need to make that jump. Something really important is to remember that this is an expensive profession and that eBay is going to be your friend, and in a lot of ways YouTube is going to be your enemy. There are going to be a lot of reviews, videos that get you really inspired to buy certain things, and that's going to lead you down paths that are kind of dead ends, and you're going to end up spending much more money than you need to. So I can't tell you how many times I've been seduced by watching YouTube videos and getting caught up on the latest and greatest gear, whether that be something like a motion slider or an anamorphic lens. Sometimes you get caught up in this trance where you forget the gear that you buy needs to have a return on investment. If you buy a motion slider, you have to say, okay, this is going to book me X amount of clients. Or if you buy an anamorphic lens, you have to say, okay, this many clients want anamorphic for their projects. And the reality of that is usually there's not a great return on investment for gear like that. So that's why I say eBay is going to be your friend. YouTube, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's really important to realize that the costs for filming videos go far beyond your time and the day of shooting and your gear. You also have to account for things like travel, your infrastructure, planning, and a myriad of other things. So keep in mind while you're doing this the total cost for everything and what moves you can make to be truly profitable. This one for us creatives I know is a little tricky to navigate oftentimes. We are really good about creating projects and creating stories. Sometimes though, it's difficult for us to account for the business side of things and the realities of you're going to need to be paying income tax, you're gonna have wear and tear on your gear, you're going to have travel, and all of those things add up to the point where if you're not charging enough, you may not really be making much money at all. Okay, so something really important is never stop taking passion projects, creative things, whether you're working for free, whether you're doing YouTube, working with friends, doing short films, music videos. Passion projects are really important, and you'll find that your skills do begin to dull if you don't exercise them enough. 2020, honestly, for me was an example of me not doing this enough, hence not uploading a YouTube video for 4 months, but I think it's very important to have projects outside of your work. Having that perspective, especially when you make the transition going from part-time to full-time, is really important, because I remember when I had a full-time job, I couldn't wait to get home and edit my freelance projects. But now that the freelance projects are my full-time job, I do need some other kind of passion project to fill that gap, the thing that I'm excited at the end of the day to grind away at and work on. Okay, so we do need to talk a little bit about what camera you need to be a full-time freelance filmmaker. Now, I don't want to talk about gear a ton in this video, but I would say the most important thing for you to consider is the camera system at large. For example, I bought into the Sony ecosystem in 2016 and have spent thousands of dollars on cameras and lenses ever since then. You don't want to buy something like a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. While those are great cameras, you may not want to buy something like that because you're investing in more of an EF lens ecosystem, and that's kind of on the way out. So it is going to depend on what type of filmmaker you want to be. So for example, we do a lot of weddings, real estate, corporate videos. So the most important factors for me are the hybrid ability of the camera, the dynamic range, the overall image, including the color depth. I want something really cinematic with a great highlight roll off. Things that aren't as important to me are things like high frame rate modes. It's more of a specialty feature. I wouldn't necessarily buy a camera based on it having something like 4K 120. Another important thing is to remember that you are now your own boss. Are you going to be a good boss, or are you going to be a bad boss? Think about the bosses that you may have had working a full-time or part-time job. What are the things that they did that you may have not liked? Maybe they gave you unrealistic expectations. Maybe they made you work on a holiday. Maybe they created a work-life balance that was kind of toxic for you. Well, believe me, it's really easy to eventually be your own bad boss. And you're going to have to be a little bit critical to manage expectations, to set boundaries, and to just overall be a good boss for yourself. So those are my tips on how to be a freelance filmmaker starting right now in 2021. There's never been a better time to jump into this thing. So many people are looking for content to be created. So many people are looking for live streams, and there are so many different paths you can go down. So good luck to you, and I hope this helped.